We're going to talk about points, lines, and planes. Go ahead and take out your highlighter. You want to be at the top of your 1.1 notes. I want you to highlight the words with the bullet points, point, line, and plane. So I'm going to show you, highlight point, line, and plane, and then off the side, write that they are undefined terms. So right here where the bullet points are, point, line, and plane, you're going to highlight those. And then write that they're called undefined terms. And there's a reason for that. If you had to explain what a point looks like, could someone explain it to me? What does a point look like? What do you think, Talmadge?
Oh, it's a place on a graph.
Okay, a place on a graph. What does it look like? Mm-hmm. A dot. Just a dot. So, a yes on a graph, you're right. When I asked for an example, graph points are a point. But a point has no dimension. Before you start writing everything down on the screen, I usually tell you what you need, because I'm going to tell you a couple things about points, and you only need certain parts of it. You do need to know that it's 0 dimension, and it looks like a dot. So a point has no dimension, and it looks like a dot. This is what you want to write down. So a point has no dimension, it looks like a dot. So where do we see points in real life? He already said one from a graph. Where else do we see a point? There are many on this page. A bullet point. Okay, cool. What else? After a sentence, a period. What about above an I? What's above an I? A point, a dot. Okay, so you see them everywhere. In order to name a point, it's very easy. You name it with a capital letter. So you're going to see a picture like this, a point with a capital letter. It reads point A. That's what you call it, point A. You could also call it just a capital A. So these are the two ways to name a point. Point A or a capital A. I had a kid earlier who liked to write in lowercase. Everything he wrote in lowercase, which is adorable, and it was great handwriting. But when you're in geometry and you're naming these, you have to use a capital letter, or it represents something else. Okay? So a capital letter is going to represent that point. So we're going to play two truths and a lie. We're going to pick which ones are correct and which ones are incorrect. Okay? So in order to name this picture, so we have a point and the letter L. Can we call it point L?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Can we call it dot L? No, I didn't even give that as an option. Can you call it a capital L?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. Okay? Your textbook sometimes will just refer to them as a capital letter, and sometimes they refer to them with the word. Okay? Both are correct. A line. So again, before you start writing, I'm just going to read and then tell you what's important. Okay? How would you explain the word line to a first grader? What does a line look like? A straight what? A straight line. That's why it's undefined, because you can't use a word to define the word. Okay, a line looks like a line. We all know what it means. We accept that a line looks like a line. What you need to know is that it is one-dimensional. Okay, you can always abbreviate and put 1D, just like 3D is three-dimensional, 1D is one-dimensional. So one-dimensional, you want to write that down. So meaning it has a length and no width. I wouldn't write this. I'm just going to explain it. It's usually represented by a straight line with two arrowheads that indicate that the line extends infinitely in both directions. You have seen them before. You took algebra last year, so you saw them a junk load. With the x and y axis. Okay? These arrows represented that these numbers will keep going up and up and up, or keep going down and down and down. Okay? The part that you want to write down is that the line extends infinitely in both directions. Or you can write this sentence, either one is okay. But a line extends infinitely in both directions. That's the other thing I would write down. It never ends. So to find a line that never ends is very difficult in real life, because everything ends. to talk about naming it. So if you look at your notes, in the middle, you see this picture? It's going to look identical to the picture that's on the screen. We're going to use this to learn how to name a line. There are 2 ways to name a line. Okay, 2 possibilities. The first one, lines are named using a lowercase script letter. What does a script letter mean? Cursive. Okay, and lowercase. So you're going to use the word line, and where is the lowercase script letter here? The L. So you'd say line L. That's option 1. I'd write it down. So we're in this box. Okay, option 2. You're going to use 2 points on the line and a line symbol. Okay, so how many points are on this line in general? 2. So L is not a point for 2 reasons. What is it missing? A dot. And then what do points always have to be? Uppercase. So it's not uppercase, doesn't have a dot, so it's not a point. The only points we have are A and B. So you would use A and B. And then you're going to use the line symbol. And I'll show you what that is. A line is a line with 2 arrowheads. So that's where the symbol comes from. It's a line with 2 arrowheads. And then 2 points. You can also flip it and say BA. It's the same thing. So AB and BA. These are the only ways to name a line. If you have a lowercase letter, you can say line L. If you have only points, you would use this notation with 2 points and the arrows. So we're going to do this first. Collinear. What does linear mean? Line. Okay? Think about the word co. Co-coach, co-captain, cohabit. It means together, right? So these are points on the same line, together on the same line. So what you want to write is points on the same line. You do have this as vocabulary. So whenever you see the word collinear, it means points on the same line. So it'll go right here. So points on the same line. And then we're going to do 3 truths and a bunch of lies. So we're going to pick which ones are correct and which ones are not. First one, line VW. Yeah, no. How many letters can we use if we're going to use the word line? 1 letter, and what does that letter have to be? Lowercase. So we can only use lowercase. This one is a no. Line P. Yes, that one's good. Line capital P. No, because what does this capital letter represent?
The actual point.
Yeah, a point. Is there a point P on this picture? No, so that one's not going to work. VW with arrows above. That one's good. WV. Yes. V. No. You need 2 letters. And then P. Same thing. You need 2 letters down here. Okay, so these would be no's. So we had 3 yeses. All right. Now we move to a plane. Point, line, plane. This is probably the most abstract for students, and that's okay. A plane is a 2-dimensional flat surface. So a piece of paper is a plane. Again, you wouldn't want to be writing down everything. You can if you want to. But here's my problem with writing down everything you see on the screen, so pause. Do you understand everything that's on the screen right now? No. So writing it down isn't very helpful for the future. So I like to break it down into words that aren't math terms, always. Okay? So I would just wait a few seconds. Or you could just keep writing it. It is what it is, I guess. So what you're looking at is 2-dimensional. 2-dimensional means it has a length and a width. Okay? And it's a flat surface. So a piece of paper is a plane. The front of a book is a plane. The top of your table is a plane. The ground is a plane. The ceiling is a plane. The wall is a plane. There are a billion planes in this room. Okay? The front of my podium is a plane. It's a flat surface that's 2-dimensional. Okay? So that is what I would write. It's a flat surface that's 2-dimensional. So flat surface that is 2-dimensional. flat surface that is two-dimensional. I'll show you what they normally look like in your geometry book. They normally look like this shape. This is a parallelogram. We don't learn about it until January. But this is normally what the shape will look like. But what they want you to envision is that this shape continues forever and ever and ever without end. Okay? So think of a really big open plane, literally. All right? So, naming a plane, we'll talk about in a second, I guess. Coplanar. So just like collinear, where points on the same line, coplanar, points on the same plane. Okay, so coplanar, points on the same plane. Points on the same plane. And then you're going to find this picture at the bottom of your page. So it should look identical to mine. So one of these things is not like the other. Which one stands out? The M, other than the fact that it's red, why else does it stand out? It's cursive. What else? Capitalized. It has no point. So is M a point? No. Are A, B, and C a point? Are they on the same plane? So A, B, and C are called coplanar. Okay, just so you know. There are two ways to name a plane. All right, two ways. Both of them involve using the word plane. This is the thing I've corrected the most today. In order to name a plane, you have to call it a plane. So you're always going to use the word plane. So option 1, option 2, either way, you're going to use the word plane. Okay? So think back to a line. A line had two ways to name it. A line had 2 points and then a lowercase letter, right? The one that stood out, you could call this line L, but could you have called it line A? No. So which one of these stands out? We already said the M. This is the name of the plane. It's not a point. The M is shoved in the corner and it's capitalized because this is the name of the plane. So you could say plane M. That's one of the ways, plane M. It is the only one you can use one letter on. And then you have a second option. You can say plane and then use 3 non-collinear points. Mrs. Marshall, what in the world are we talking about here? What did collinear mean? Together on what? On the same line. So non-collinear means not on the same line. So you want 3 points that are not on the same line. Do you see a line in here at all? No. So what 3 points do we have? A, B, and C. So you can name them in any order. A, B, C. You can say B, A, C. Plane, B, A, C. Plane, C, A, B. So on and so forth. So these are your two options. Okay? But they have to be non-collinear, and we'll talk about that more. I believe we flip. I want to say. We'll do this first. Then we'll flip. So this is what a geometry problem would look like in your book. Now I'm going to decipher it for you. How about you? Okay, so I want you to envision, here's a plane. I want you to envision it as a sheet of paper. Can everyone do that? This S is supposed to be on the plane. It's just sometimes I make mistakes. It is what it is. So pretend this S is right here. So you have this sheet of paper. You have 2 lines. This line is a solid black line, okay? Think of the line is sitting on the paper like this, okay? So this first line is sitting on the paper. This second one, this looks different. This one, do you see this dotted? Okay, I'm going to tell you what that means. This second line is not on the paper. What does it look like it's doing if it's not on the paper? It's going what? It's going off, it's going through it. So it's going through the paper through point B. Does everyone see it kind of 3-dimensionally? So it's kind of doing this thing, all right? So the purpose for the dotted is so you know that this line doesn't stop here. It keeps on going and going and going. Does that make sense? Behind what you can't see, right? You can't see the whole pencil, but there's pencil back there. Does that make sense? So whenever you see these dots, that just means it keeps going behind the surface, whatever that is. Okay, so we're going to go through these. EBU. Could I name this EBU? No, why not? What's it missing? Plane. So this one's a no because it has to use the word plane. Plane, E-B-U. So E-B-U. They are good, okay? Because they're not on the same line, okay? Plane L. What does this L represent?
Isn't that a 1?
It's an L.
Oh.
It doesn't represent the plane. What do we say a lowercase letter could represent? A line. So this L is the name of this line. Okay, so it's not a point. Are there any dots around the L? Will a point be a lowercase letter? No. Okay, so this one is not good. Okay, we have to use 3 non-collinear points. Plane EBH. So EBH. Are they good? They are. They're not on the same line. Plane EBL. No, why not? Because L is not even a point. Okay, so you need 3 points. Plane UBX. This one's tricky. It's not. Why is it not? Yeah, X isn't even on the plane. So how are you going to name the plane using a letter that's not on the plane? Okay, so X is not on the plane. Plane S. So again, pretend this S was where it's supposed to be, all the way up here. Is plane S okay? Yes, it is. Plane SBH. No. Is S a point? No, you have to use 3 points. Okay, last one, because I should have written it up here. What about plane UBH? Yes or no? No. Because remember, they have to be 3 non-collinear. So 3 points that are not on the same line. So U, B, and H, they are on the same line. Does that make sense? They're like one of the only combinations you couldn't do. You could do plane U, EUB, UEH, UEB, and so on and so forth. You just can't do these 3 together. Does that make sense? Because they're on the same line. All right, so that's a plane. Here's what I tell my students to help them remember. If you want to write it down, you can. When we named, or when, this lesson in general, what's the name of this lesson? Point what? Points, lines, planes. How many letters did we use to name a point? We used 1 letter. How many letters did we use to name a line with the notation? 2. How many letters do we use to name a plane? 3. So points, lines, planes, 1, 2, 3. That's the way I remember it, okay? It's just easier that way. We're going to flip to the back and then apply what we did, what we've done. This is what your classwork will look like. It will literally have these exact questions, a different picture. Okay, so we're doing these so you can be prepared for that. Give 2 other names for PQ. So I'm going to highlight that for you so we can all be looking at the same thing. So what is the easiest way to rename PQ? QP. QP. We can flip them. Can I list PQ again? Is that renaming PQ? By calling it PQ? No. So I need another one. What is the only other way to name this line?
Line N.
Line N. So use the word line, and then use the lowercase. It's kind of script. It's more like italic, but N. Those are the only 2 ways to name this line. All right, we'll name a plane. What do I need to write first to name a plane? Plane. Okay, always plane, so I'm rewriting it twice. So I'm just going to write plane twice. They've already used the letter R. R was the name of the plane, so I can't use 1 letter anymore. They've already used that. Okay, so if we're all looking at this piece of paper, really, which letters can we not use to name the plane? Can't use R. We can't use, which one? Can't use N. What did you say? Can't use M. Can't use Q. Can't use Q. Okay, we can use the rest. P is where the line comes through the paper, so P is on the paper. So we can use any combination of these 3, except for what combination can we not use? Yeah, so we could not say, I'll write it, SPT. We cannot do that one, okay, because they're all on the same line. So give me a combination. What do we think? VTS, sure. What do we say again? VTS, and then what? VSP, perfect. So any combination like that, okay? You could say, you could flip these, PSV, STV, all these combinations, as long as it's not this top one. Name 3 points that are collinear. Blake, what does collinear mean? I see you, Faden.
Points on the same line.
Thank you. Points on the same line. So go ahead and help me name 3 points on the same line.
SPT.
Mm-hmm. So you can either say point S, point P, point T, or you can shorten them. But here's what you have to make sure you do. You have to put a comma. Okay? Make sure you separate them with a comma. Just like in regular grammar, when you list multiple things, you're going to put a comma. All right, and then name 4 points that are coplanar. So Terrell's going to help us out with that. Terrell, what does coplanar mean? You're going to find out what it means. Come on, bud. Can someone show them their notes so that he can tell us what coplanar means? Andrew, do you have it written down? Can he read it off of your paper? That's collinear. Coplanar with a P. Plane. Good. So help me name 4 points that are on the same plane. Hint, they're already on there. What'd you say? Okay, VT. Which one? So I agree with S, not quite R. Can anybody help him finish? P, yeah. So why couldn't I use R? It's the name of a plane. It's not a point. Doesn't have a dot. All right, we got 2 more things. Then we're finished. We're going to talk about defined terms. There are 2 of them. These terms can be described using words such as point and line. So the first one, we've already talked about line, and it was symbolized by AB with the arrows above. You could also flip it around and say BA. So right now we're going to talk about a segment. Okay, so think about a segment. You hear it on like TV or like the news. A news segment, does it go on forever and ever and ever? No, it has a starting point and then it has an ending point, right? So that's the exact definition of a segment if you want to go to the front page. It's a line with a beginning and an end. So a line with a beginning and an end. It's on the front. A line with a beginning and an end. It will not look like this line. Instead, it will have a beginning and an end. These are called endpoints. It's symbolized very similarly, but how are they different? Why is this different than what a line looked like?
It doesn't keep going.
Yeah, it doesn't keep going. It doesn't have arrows. Okay? So in order to signify that it stops, you just draw a line, and that's it. Okay? Let's do another example of it. Give me 3 letters. Go. Not ABC. That's boring. B-R. Yes. Yeah, I didn't hear what he said. Here we go. So if I wanted to name the entire line, okay, so remember this is a line segment. How many letters do we use to name a line in general? 2 letters. Okay, but if I said BR, okay, where's my starting and stopping point? B and R. Does that include the entire line? No. So in order to name this line, what would I have to call it? BS or SB? Okay, in order for it to start on the letter B and end on S. Okay, you would never use 3 letters to name a line. You always use 2. So you'd use the 2 endpoints. Okay? That's a line segment. Any questions on that one? This one's easy. Okay, let's look at it. AB. So we're wanting to name this entire line in the top right. Does AB name the entire line? Yes. Line AB.
No.
No. So first off, this isn't even a line. What does a line look like in geometry? Yeah, it has the arrows. So it would have this, and then A and B. And this isn't even a way to name a line with arrows. So, double no. AM. Does it include the whole line? No, it's only half of it. What about MB? Nope, only half of it. BM? No. BA? Yes. So really the only two that were good were the first and the last. Okay, that's line segments. The last one we'll talk about is array. This is the hardest for boys, and I'll tell you why. We're still on the front. That's fine. You know how women have like an attention to detail? You know what I mean? Like, you dissed a woman like 2 weeks ago, and she'll never let you forget it for the rest of her life. You know what I'm talking about? None of you? Women have extraordinary memories. Attention to detail. Men, I love them. You have many strengths. Attention to detail is not always one of them. So this array, okay, you have to have attention to detail. Okay, and we'll talk about it and I'll show you why. To write the definition, array is a line with a starting point and extends infinitely in the other direction. So array, I'm going to be writing this down, has a starting point and then goes infinitely in the other direction. So array has a starting point and goes infinitely in the other direction. Okay, so array has a starting point and goes infinitely in the other direction. So we're going to talk about why there's an attention to detail. Who is more dominant in the world, righties or lefties? Righties. Okay, it's not a left-handed person's world. I wish it were. I think there's like a dumb statistic about how many people die because they're left-handed using a right-handed item. Anyways, so here's why I say this. If you look at the way they symbolize this. This arrow is pointing to the right. It always has to point to the right. So when you're symbolizing a ray, it always has to point to the right. And then the first letter, they call it the initial point. What do you think of when you hear the word initial? Your starting point. Okay? So in this picture, it makes sense because what's the initial point? Where is the starting point? A, so they put A first. And then the arrow goes off in the direction, infinitely, towards the letter B. Okay? Here's why I say you have to have an attention to detail. In lines, AB is the same thing as BA. In segments, AB is the same thing as BA. In rays, it is not. Here's why. If I say BA, like this, what is my starting point now? My initial point? B. So my starting point would be B, and then I go off in the direction of A. So it flips the letters. So you can't just say, oh, AB, BA. It's not going to work. Okay? If your arrow goes in a different direction, give me 2 other letters. C, E. Okay? When you go to name this, my beautiful artwork, so sorry. When you go to name this, you still point your arrow to the right. Because remember I said, oh, it's gone. Always point your arrow to the right when you're symbolizing. What letter would then come first? E. And then it would go off in the direction of C. So even though my ray points to the left, when I symbolize it, my little arrow is going to point to the right. That make sense? Okay? So we're going to do, I think this is on the back first. Yep, on the back middle. We're almost finished. We have this, and then picking out which is correct to name array. So we did segment AB. So how could we name segment AB?
AB with a line.
AB with a line above it. Can I flip it? Yes, to BA. Naming a line. So I use AB, but what does the line above it look like? With 2 arrows? Can I flip it? Yes. My array down here. What does my arrow look like? Pointing to the right. What's my first letter going to be? A, because it's my starting point. And then I go off and infinitely in the direction of which letter? B. Can I flip it? No. My last one, it's still array. I still point to the right. What is my initial point in this picture? B, and it goes off in the direction of A. Sorry for the ugly handwriting. My palm caught it. Perfect. So now we're just going to pick which ones are good and which ones aren't. TS, do we like it?
No.
Why not?
S is your starting.
S is your starting point, but in this notation, T is the starting point. Okay? Ray ST. Did we use the word ray to name a ray? No. So that one's not possible. TS. Yeah, no. My arrow's pointing to the left, so it automatically is a no. ST. That one's good. Perfect. So you're going to take out your textbook. You've got like 12 minutes. We're going to begin on the classwork. I'm walking around and checking. Okay, I don't let you leave without a good portion of this finished. Again, I normally don't give homework on Fridays, but we lost 3 days of school, so it is what it is.